Hi, I'm Dale Beaumont and welcome to Get Published TV. This is the only dedicated show on the internet to help authors and aspiring authors to write, publish and market their own best-selling book. Now today's a special day because we have our Blue Couch author chat, and I'm going to be joined by Terry Hawkins, and she's going to be talking about her career as a speaker and also now as a book author and publisher. So Terry, thanks very much for joining us.
My pleasure.
All right, well, why don't you tell us a little bit about your professional background and what you do majority of the time?
Okay, well, I've actually been a trainer and speaker for 27 years.
27 years.
27 years, I know, 21. You thought I was 21. But for 27 years, so 20 years I've had my own training company called People in Progress. Mm-hmm. And through that, the evolution was that I got onto the speaking circuit. So now I have a team of trainers and I'm building the training business to take it internationally.
Yes.
And the speaking side I have been doing for about 8 years now, I think.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Now, we're going to talk more about the speaking side in probably a future interview, but right now what we're going to look at is Terry and her books. Now, the one we're going to talk about at the beginning is called There Are Two Times in Life, Now and Too Late, and then we're going to talk a little bit about some of her children's books as well, which is a really fun project, which I know she's very passionate about. So tell me, what inspired you after so many years speaking to actually write this book?
Well, actually, I had been keeping notes, and I think everybody has a book in them, but we never see ourselves as being an author, or we compare ourselves to bestsellers, and we go,
yeah,
you know,
what right do I have, or
yeah,
you know, there's so many other books.
And people say I could never write a book, and I go, you could, you just want it to be a bestseller. So
yeah.
So I kept notes, and when I'm on a plane or I could be in a car, it's anything, and I think of thoughts and I write them down. So I've kept these little pieces of paper. So a bit of a techno head, as you can see. But I'd keep these pieces of paper in a little box. So when I started speaking, because I speak quite fast, but also because there are so many learnings in my presentations that people would come up at the end and go, do you have a book? And I'd go, no, I'm not an author. Don't you love that? Mm. And so it wasn't until a few other speakers started saying to me, and Matt Church in particular, I remember, I really got the moment when he said, it's a sin that you don't have a book. You know, these people want your content.
And why was that such a big revelation for you when you finally heard that?
I didn't think, and this is my self-esteem, I'm sure, I didn't think that I was capable of writing a book. I didn't think I was clever enough, or that what I had to say in a book would be, I don't know, I think there's a massive amount of self-judgment that goes around the pre-thoughts of writing a book.
Yeah. And so how did you kind of get over that, you know, starting process? Because they say that it's the starting that stops a lot of people. Once they kind of get going, the momentum starts to carry you forward and it starts to become easier and you start to believe, yes, I can do this. What was the process like for you in your mind?
The process was, I thought first, because there's a beautiful, wonderful editor, Maureen Jordan, I'm sure that's her last name, Peter Switzer's wife. Right. And she's an editor anyway. I remember her saying, I had to go back and think about it. I took my presentation and wrote it out longhand. So I recorded it, and then this is the Get Out of the Pit, the Stickman one, and I just wrote the whole presentation out longhand. Then I sent it to Maureen, and she so kindly had a look at it, and she said, I don't see you in it. I can't hear you. Right. Like there's nothing about you in there. It's all about the presentation. You need to put your stories in it. And so that was great feedback. Wounded, of course, feedback. And then once I got over that, I started to find these stories where I'd started books and started to take notes and pulled out my box of little notes and started to just pile it on board without judgment. You have to reserve judgment. I think the biggest thing is just reserve judgment. Save it for later. There'll be plenty of people to judge it, your parents. So I just piled it all on board and and then put the chapters in, and it just started to take a life of its own.
Now you've worked with obviously writing down your ideas, but also post-it notes as well, and you're highly visual. So talk us through the process that you had to organise some of your thoughts.
Okay, because I'm actually writing another book now, and this is, and I do this basically for all ideas, but I think it's really easy to, and I can't quite remember where I learnt this, but anyway, I learned it somewhere. Where I think I was in a training session once, and we had to actually we stuck all these post-it notes up on the wall. Anyway, it was probably years and years ago. So for me, I've just built on that idea of I might have, for example,
Mind if I hold a couple up?
Yeah, sure. Let me just give you, that's just a more detailed. So this is me doing a particular book, all right? So they would be the chapters.
Right, okay.
So there's 8 chapters there.
Yes.
And then this is my plan. So then I work out how I'm going to do each chapter.
Yes.
And then I might then write out chapters, and then what do I want to say in each chapter? So it just organises your thoughts, that's all. And a book actually has a natural progression.
Yep.
So but I didn't worry about going from the beginning to the end, A, B, C. I'd go, these are all the things I want to say in the book. So what naturally follows, so it's like in movies apparently. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
When they film it, they can film the finish at the beginning.
Right.
They don't need to, it doesn't need to be sequential because it's not a living thing.
Yes.
So this is the same for me. I knew exactly what I wanted to say. Some parts, there'd be a gap, and I'd think, wow, this doesn't link, and so a new chapter would emerge. I just remembered why I wrote the book. Because as an educator, and having been educated for 27 years, I would say to people in training all the time, just read. Read 5 minutes a day.
Yep.
All I want you to do, just read 5 minutes a day, every day without fail. I read every day of my life.
Yep.
My kids go to school and their librarian says, only read on the days you eat. And it's fantastic. And I thought, wouldn't it be good to write a book that people could pick up for the people who don't read?
Yes, okay.
So I wanted it to be really simple. So I don't think I'll win any Pulitzer Prizes for it. But so some chapters are actually 1.5 pages long.
Yep.
And so from that point of view, it was, it's an easy read. It's 4.5 hours. It's deep, and there are some really moving moments in it. People have said to me they laugh out loud 1 minute and then they're crying the next. But I wanted people to be able to have some sort of powerful influence before they went to bed or wherever it was.
Well, I think what Terry's touching on there is she came up with a style and a format that really works. And one of the things that I always recommend is coming up with some type of point of difference. And what your point of difference is here is that you're saying this is a book for people that even don't like to read. You've actually decided that instead of people reading chapters that go for 25 pages, you've got 25 chapters here in total, so each one can be anywhere between 2 to 3 pages. So that way, people only just read a chapter a day. It's only going to take them 5, maybe maximum 10 minutes or so, but they're getting that into their heads and they feel like they're accomplishing something.
Yes.
So I think that's a really good thing that you've done, and a really great way to position your book differently, and when you're talking about it, it makes it achievable for everyone. So I think that's a really good point. The other thing that, as I flick through the book here, that I'm seeing a lot of is pictures and illustrations and diagrams. So why don't you talk to us about these and why these have become such a great feature of the book?
I think because people are visual, and often if you say to people, like I'll, give it to people who say, I don't read. Funnily enough though, I don't know if you want to talk about audiobooks, but my brother-in-law wouldn't read, and he ended up reading it, but I then recorded it on audio for him to read, because people are to hear it, because people are visual, and Stickman, who is a character in the book, is very visual. So I just think it makes it, enjoyable, and people get a bit of a picture of what I'm trying to communicate.
Great. Well, we've spoken about the reasons as to why you wrote the book. We've spoken about how you came up with your plan. I think this is really brilliant. A lot of people say that they suffer from writer's block, and really I think writer's block is just a case of not having a plan and not knowing really what you want to say. So it's great that you've taken the time to do this.
And it becomes overwhelming.
So how did you take that maybe chaos and turn it into bite-sized chunks? Did you just, obviously got the post-it notes here, any other tips or techniques that you apply?
I think the biggest tip I can give you is that, reserve judgment, and let it take form. Yeah. So if you get stuck on something, let it go. At least if you've got your plan and you've got your topic, your headings, you can actually come back to it. Yeah. You don't have to go, okay, there's nothing's flowing in that bit, I'll go and move on to another one. But writer's block, if you force yourself, so I had a deadline, and deadlines are great. Yeah. And I promised one of the girls that works with me that, because she really wanted to see me finish the book, and I kept putting it off, and I promised her by Christmas Eve I would have the first manuscript for her.
Yes.
I longhand. I wish I had it here to show you. We found it on the weekend. I was cleaning out my bedroom and we went, oh, look at this. And they're actually little Spyrex books, the same size of that book.
Yep.
And I would longhand everything. Now, I'm not saying that people should do that, but I'd be in the car and so I'd write, and I'd be on a plane. I wouldn't write while I was driving, someone else would be writing. And I'd be on a plane and I'd write. So I just kept adding and adding and adding, and you get this flow. So don't allow yourself the excuse of having writer's block. Write something, even if you hate it and you throw it in the bin, just make the commitment to write and then just do it.
Great.
And don't judge yourself.
Don't judge. Great. Now tell us about what was your process for getting the work actually published. So once you had your book essentially finished, you then needed to get it into print. So how did you go about doing that?
Okay, so I had no idea what I didn't know. And so I went with a project management place, a company, and I had some people help me manage the project. So from that point of view, it was very good in the fact that they had contacts and, they knew the process and gave some great advice. And we went through that angle and then had it printed off. The first 1,000 copies I had printed in Australia because I needed them urgently for a presentation.
Yeah.
And then the second, so we've had 20 to 21,000 printed now, which we've sold most of. So.
Fantastic. Now, we really want to talk about this because this will blow a lot of people's minds, because normally when you think about a book, the main distribution channel or the way of selling the book is through bookstores, and sometimes that's the only real outlet that people know about. But how many of these books have you actually sold in bookstores?
Oh gosh, Dale, I don't even bother.
Exactly.
Honestly.
Answer, 0.
And because, you know what, it's your ego.
Yeah. And
my ego, I think when you see your book on a bookshelf, and like I walk into bookstores and when I see all of the secrets books, I just go, yay, Dale. Because they're everywhere and it's such a powerful, but you taught me this, that you got my book and slipped it in front of me and said, that's all people have got in a bookstore. Yeah. Now, bookstores only buy 1 or 2 copies. Yeah. Now, if they don't, no one buys it. So you can either spend your life hiring people to go into bookstores, like your kids, your mother, find your book, put it face up and hope that someone walks past. I don't know. I wouldn't even sold, 100?
Yeah.
That could be maybe more. But the majority of books that I've sold are via the net, on our online shop, but majority at the back of the room.
Fantastic. So Terry's a professional speaker and sold over 20,000 books. And what's really exciting about this is that books have a great margin and a really good markup. So printing costs after your first print run, and the first print run obviously costs are higher because you're having to pay for typesetting, editing, cover design. But after the first print run, all those costs have now been absorbed. So other than the cost of printing, then you're basically getting about 90% profit on every book that you sell, which is fantastic. So clearly, with 20,000 books sold, if there's even $5 profit there in each of those books, I know there's probably a lot more. We're talking about over $100,000 worth of additional income on top of the money that you make as a speaker, which I know is very nice as well. So, do you want to talk to us? How has having this book changed your world, or changed how you do your presentations? Because it's not just about giving a great message now, it's about leaving them with something of real value. So talk us through that.
Yeah, and you don't realise the power of that. And I think I get emails from all over the world. Where I actually got my job in Bahrain, the wife of the guy who ran the company, Al Ottman Group, I think it was, massive company. Someone had given her the book, I think, this is how it works, and she gave it to her husband who ran the company, and he gave it to his HR manager and said, get this woman over here, I wanted to do a one-day presentation for all of our senior managers. So I get emails from all over the world where people have read the book, sent it, wherever. So from that point of view, the exposure is great, that Terry Hawkins is in places where, and I know it's been in more than 20,000 hands because people lend the book. They go, it does the pass me on type thing. How has it changed my world? I send books to Africa.
Yep. So
we've just started being involved with a library over there where each book is read by 60 people.
Right. Wow, that's amazing.
Each book, every book. And I was like, wow. So I feel great that I can actually contribute this book, which now costs me, $3 or something to print, is nothing. It's a gift. I give it away when I speak at high schools. I give the students a book from me as a gift.
Yeah.
Where I've heard feedback where teenage girls have walked around holding that book at their Bible. From a conference point of view, it keeps going on. People stay in touch with me. It's just brilliant. It's a brilliant resource, and people kept calling me an author. And I could go, don't be silly, I've just written a book. Be an author. But of course now I do call myself an author, and it gives you instant credibility. I have no idea why, but people think that the moment you've written a book,
You know something.
You know something. Who would have thought?
But I really love that whole concept that, you have no idea where these books, go. And they just get into the hands of the most incredible people. And not only do you touch a lot of lives, but it's great for business as well, because these are all tools, and every one of these books is in a way like a lead generation device for someone coming back to your website, or someone maybe booking you as a speaker.
Absolutely.
So it's really, really great.
Well, just on that, we send out a book pack when people are interested in booking me, and it's amazing how many jobs I've got from people after they've read the book and they've said, I've read Terry's book, I'd love her to come and speak at our conference. So from a sales point of view, it's brilliant for that.
Yeah. Now, a little bit of a change of pace. We've got this little guy here. People may be wondering, what is this little stickman character? Because you've actually got this character in your book. So do you want to talk a little bit about this guy and why he really helps to bring the book to life?
Absolutely. Well, because he is, I'm going to put him back up there. I've got another one down here. That's one we prepared earlier. Here's another one. Stickman, and he is an evolution as well, just like the book.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do now, through your advice, and it's great, I think the biggest thing I would say too is to get advice from people who've gone before, because we can get a bit romantic about our concepts.
Yeah.
And you've been so helpful, I cannot begin to. My face should be on the front of that book. Now, I resisted that because I'm thinking, you said that it's really important because people can get an emotional connection to the face. And so now I'm going to actually have a picture of me on the front holding, Stickman, and do a Pitman as well. So Pitman and Stickman are two characters that I came up with, and the form of Stickman emerged because I needed something tangible. So I used to draw a stick figure, which I still do, but he needed to become a character, and he comes with the book.
Yep.
So it's like, if you read the book, then you're a Stickman.
Yeah.
Just for the fact that you finished reading the book. And so it's a bit like a symbol, and people see it as a toy until they read the book, and then they know it's actually a symbol of the choice that they make every day.
Yeah. And I think you've done it in a really clever way by introducing this character, because if you're talking about personally, it can really seem like you're just talking about yourself. But when you've got this Stickman character, you can get all those messages in there, and people put themselves into that character.
Yes.
So I think that's a really clever thing, and I think people should really get a copy of this book, if for nothing else, just to understand the process of how that character is introduced and how it really takes on a whole life in the book. So tell us a little bit about where people can get the book, and then we're going to talk about the children's book very quickly.
Right.
So the book's called There Are Two Times in Life, Now and Too Late. So mention your website and where people can get a copy. Okay,
so if you just go on to peopleinprogress.com.au or Terry Hawkins, TerryHawkins.com.au, and it's on our shop. So it'll just say come shopping on the website.
Yep.
They're both the same website. And it's on there. And you can either get it on audio as well. So if you don't read, you can slip it into the car. Yep. And
brilliant. Okay, so that's the book there. Now we've also, tell us about these children's books as well, because this is a really exciting project. I'm not going to spoil it. You tell us all about it.
Well, I love saying that I'm a children's author now, but it didn't start that way. I was telling a story about my niece and how she put on weight, and I explained about Pitman and Stickman to her, and she got it. And I thought, and then I started sharing that story in my presentations. People will tell you what they want to hear. Sometimes we think we've got the solution, but if we just shut up for a second and listened to our audience or to our customers or whatever, they'll tell you what they want in the content. And people started coming out to me saying, do you write children's books? And so I was, super arrogant, not arrogant, but dumb, and would go, no, I don't write children's books. Until about the 9th person came up and said, do you write children's books? Because my my daughter is suffering from abuse at school because of obesity. And so he had tears in his eyes, and I really got it, and I just said, look, they're not finished yet. and then went and bought a whole bunch of Mr. Men books and thought, how am I going to take an adult's concept and put it into a children's storybook? Because you've only got, this is the great thing about learning to write books, you only have a certain amount of pages.
Yep.
And they come in clumps, and there's all these little things that you learn. So I knew I only had 15 minutes of reading time for a child, and even that was quite long. So I did my first Let's Do Healthy, and we published, I think we printed 1,000.
Yep. Now
it's a lot more expensive with children's, because I wanted it to be really pretty.
Yep.
And I asked my son, do you prefer plain or coloured? And he said coloured. So I thought it's more expensive, but I'm doing it for the kids. And interestingly enough, so I've just actually, it was really small, but that was too small for children. So now it's come out of my pen at about 8 years of age,
yep.
8 to 10. I've just finished reading this. This is the second round. And I watched the children, and they couldn't handle the flaps.
Yep.
So the flaps were getting in the way because of their little hands. So now I'm cutting off the flaps, and I'm using, because now I've learned that's cover 1, cover 2, cover 3, cover 4. We're now putting the information inside the covers.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so it's really about what's right for them. Lots of really bright pictures. I mean, there's, that's Pitman. This one's about healthy. So now what's happened, there were going to be 3. Oh, sorry, I get so excited about these books. So there's Let's Do Healthy, Let's Do Happy, Let's Do Love. And Stickman is the character in the book with Pitman. That's Pitman. And Stickman shows children. He's a perfect example of, when we think Pitman language, I'm no good, so forth, we shrink. Our self-esteem shrinks, our confidence shrinks, and Pitman gets bigger inside of us. You have no idea how many parents have said to me, I have so understood the concept of Stickman just by reading this book, and then they've wanted the adults book.
Yep.
So now there's 7 in the series. There are all the colours of the rainbow. There's on bullying, racism, divorce, children protecting themselves from from abusers. Just the tough topics.
Yeah.
But I've had people say to me, "Oh, children don't want that. They just want storybooks." And I thought, no, they don't. It's amazing how many kids have actually responded to Stickman teaching them.
Yeah.
Not a grown-up author. This is Stickman's in there. Terry Hawkins isn't in there.
Yeah.
One of my clients, she says to me, "Oh, my son goes, oh, is that Terry Hawkins, the Stickman lady?" So I just would love to see children. I think the biggest thing behind this for me was children can still get it regardless of how screwed up their parents are.
Yeah. Fabulous. Look, we're almost out of time. I just wanted to say it's just so fantastic to sit here and see how it's all evolved, and now with the children's books just taking on a whole new life. It's very, very cool. So I wanted to say big thank you for coming in and sharing
Thank you
what
for
you've
your help.
done. It's been amazing. And also, if it's okay, I was wondering if you could join us again, because I know you've got a huge amount of knowledge in the area of speaking and how you actually promote books from stage.
Great.
So if it's okay, if you could come back,
I'd
we'll
love
do another
to.
episode. All right, that would be fabulous. So this is Dale Beaumont from Get Published TV. Thanks for watching. Please leave us your comment just below, and look forward to speaking to you again sometime soon.
Bye.